On August 5th, 1583, Gilbert arrived at St. John's Harbor to find almost 40 fishing vessels already there, not only catching cod, but drying and salting them on shore. Immediately the surveyors went to work, and, as Hayes put it, quote, did observe the elevation of the pole and drew plans, spelled Plats, of the country exactly graded to scale, unquote. Before the end of the month, the first transactions had taken place, and parcels of land along the water's edge were being rented out to fishermen who until then had occupied them freely. Quote, for which grounds, Hayes pointed out, they did covenant to pay a certain rent and service, unquote. In return, Gilbert assured his tenants they now had the right to occupy their own particular spot from 1 year to the next. On the face of it, Gilbert's behavior was absurd. For uncounted generations, the granite hills overlooking the long, dogleg inlet of St. John's had been used by the Micmac people, who regarded it as their territory. The Basque fishermen who had discovered the sheltered haven, perhaps before Columbus sailed to America in 1492, believed that they, and any others who had the audacity to cross the ocean to fish for cod, had earned the right to use the landing grounds during the summer season. But that was as far as it went. Yet now, under English law, Sir Humphrey Gilbert asserted just such a right, and on that basis proposed to charge the fishermen rent for using a part of the wilderness for activities that they had always engaged in freely. For the first time, an idea that would revolutionize the structure of society and transform the way people thought about themselves had made itself known outside its homeland. Biology underpins the pivotal influence that ownership of the earth exerts on human life. There are givens that remain as true for the nearly 7 billion of us presently living here, as they were for the 500 million people scattered across the land in 1583. The body's core temperature must remain within a degree or two of 37 degrees Celsius, or 98.6 degrees Fahrenheit. To maintain this temperature, an adult must consume a minimum of 1,800 calories a day, preferably 2,450, according to the Food and Agriculture Organization of the United Nations, and closer to 4,000 calories for the sort of labor demanded of the fishermen in St. John's Harbor. That adult must also be clothed and sheltered from the burning sun and freezing rain. Except for some coastal communities, the Earth's population in every area has always depended on the land for at least 85% of the energy that keeps it alive, and for all its clothing and shelter. This inescapable fact of life makes the challenge of caring for the 9 billion inhabitants who will inhabit the Earth in 50 years' time daunting. They must be fed, clothed, and housed on the produce of some 45 million square kilometers of farmland, roughly 18 million square miles. In optimum conditions, less than half of this area might be sufficient to produce the calories needed for survival. But the land must also produce biofuels, animal feed, minerals, timber, cotton, and other clothing fibers. At the same time, the soil degrades, cities spread, climate changes, and natural disasters, such as droughts and floods, earthquakes and tsunamis, whittle away spare capacity to danger levels. Any realistic scenario for 2050 has to consider how the Earth will be owned.